Nathan Apodaca's viral Ocean Spray moment put Fleetwood Mac's Dreams back on the Billboard charts and gave the song their best streaming week to date. But I got to tell you, that wasn't the only music that saved 2020. Joining me now is Malicia Johnson and MTV's Domiti Pongo to talk about the collabs, the returns, and the surprise drops that we got this year. What's up, you guys? Let's talk about the major collabs we saw in 2020, because there were some big ones. Which collab do you think made the biggest impact, though, this year? Domiti, let's start with you.
Oh, man, you got to start off with WAP. I mean, Cardi B, Meg Thee Stallion, I mean, that had politicians tweeting WAP. And I never thought that I would see politicians talking about Wet A, well, you know the rest. I mean, this was a big collaboration between two of the hottest female artists in the game. I mean, there was no bigger song than WAP. The only other one might be the collab between Megan Thee Stallion and Beyonce.
Yes. Other than the Savage remix being Meg's first #1 hit and dominating TikTok, the song's success literally made a tangible impact on people. All of the proceeds went to the Bread of Life, a Houston-based charity helping out relief when it comes to COVID in Houston. I know COVID relief, that was amazing, definitely necessary, but I think the shockwaves that WAP made is a moment that we're going to be talking about for years to come.
It also got people dancing. I mean, WAP and Savage remix. I mean, okay, I got Rugburn trying to do the WAP dance. Like,
I pulled a leg trying to do that WAP.
You know,
man.
The bruise on my hip is still healing. But you know, more than anything, yes, we couldn't ignore it. Everyone was talking about it, but more than anything, it just made you feel good.
If I could, Denny, there's one collab that made a big impact on the hip hop community and me personally, which was Alfredo, the album collaboration between rapper Freddie Gibbs and producer The Alchemist. The Alchemist, legendary hip hop producer. And you know, it didn't come out with any TikToks, didn't have any dance videos, but that album this year is nominated for Best Rap Album at the Grammys. And you usually don't see an album that's this lyrical, that's this cerebral with samples. Most of the songs don't even have choruses, yet this collaboration project between this producer and this MC is being recognized by the Grammys. And I think that just speaks volume to how dope that project was. So it ain't WAP and it ain't Savage, but it was a really impactful project collab.
I love it, Domiti. Your music taste just jumped out, and that's why you're here. Listen, you know, besides these monster collabs, you know, 2020 also gave us some major returns. We saw people like Lady Gaga come back into the dance pop space with Chromatica, Brandy, the Chicks, among people who put out albums this year that we haven't heard from them in a minute. How do we think this year affected these comebacks?
You know, I think what really helped the comebacks are the versus battles. We've seen some really innovative things happen throughout this quarantine. And Brandy, doing that versus battle with Monica, got us so hyped for B7. Right. And when B7 finally dropped, it did not disappoint.
Brandy's LP B7 was her first album in 8 years. And as a fan who still listens to her 1998 album, Never Say Never, consistently up until this day, this was a huge bright spot for me. I mean, she started working on this album about 3 years ago, and it's an album that focuses on self-worth, mental health, and her own spiritual transformation. So I think the divine timing of it all was great, because she didn't expect 2020 to be what it was. But when it came out this year, I think it resonated with a lot of people who were also working on self-worth, mental health, and spiritual transformations in their own lives.
We missed that voice, didn't we? I feel like I feel like she definitely filled a void. But it's interesting because, like Brandy's, you know, the message behind her record, I feel like the same could be applied with Lady Gaga. You know, she put out her first studio album in 4 years. She went and did the whole Star is Born, won an Oscar thing, and then came back to her roots really with this like club, dance, pop record that while it was filled with bops and stuff that you should be blasting and dancing to, I mean, the lyrical content of it was all from, you know, a place of her focusing on her mental health and turning sadness into, you know, her superpower. And so I was happy to see Gaga return to form this year too.
2020, because it was so stressful, you know, we looked for reasons and ways to escape. And Lady Gaga taking us to the world of Chromatica really spoke to some of that escapism, that surreal world that she takes us in every time she releases it. And she did that once again this year when she came back with that.
Well,
Well,
since
if
we're
we're gonna
talking
talk,
about the divine timing of it all, I just wanted to mention the Chicks really quick. They gave us their first album in 14 years. It was titled Gaslighter. And of course, I mean, I know you all know this. Gaslighting means when someone tries to manipulate you into doubting reality. And I feel like if we're going to talk about the divine timing of everything, that sums up pretty much what we've experienced over the last four
right,
years. And especially in 2020. So they hit it definitely on the head. And it was just good for them to be back. They're so
right.
influential and they're powerhouses in this industry.
And Malicia, they came back with a new name, you know,
All
and part
right.
of
True.
this, I don't know what is, you know, yeah, they removed Dixie from their name because with
Yes.
2020 came this bigger, larger understanding of words, how we use them. We rethought
Mhm.
how we capitalize the being black as it denotes racial ethnicity. And the Dixie Chicks and the word, the pain that comes with the Dixie time period,
Right.
and that time
Mm,
frame, you start to
yeah.
see this awakening happening in music, and the Chicks also use that as fuel for their rebranding with this new album. So divine timing indeed.
We also can't talk about those newsmakers without talking about a couple really big surprise drops this year from some huge artists. Two in particular. There was Taylor Swift's Folklore, and also Bad Bunny dropped his third album this year,
Mhm.
El Último Tour del Mundo. I mean, I know I miss live music. Do you guys feel like these releases kind of softened the blow of no concerts this year?
It absolutely did, man. And Bad Bunny, he really made my heart drop calling this album the final world tour. You know, he really wanted
Mhm.
everybody to think that that would be it for him. I loved his album previous to this. It was one of my favorites. And then when this came out, I'm like, wait a minute, what is he saying? And he allowed people on Twitter to go on and on about it, to kind of, you know, guess at whether or not this would be his final album before he finally came out and said, yo, if this was my final album, what would it look like? And because tours have transformed. You know, you have an album, all of these artists are using different forms of creativity to figure out how they can
Mhm.
still keep fans engaged, still get some of that live energy out there without hitting the stage in person. And I think Bad Bunny is one of the best to do that.
I talked to Bad Bunny about this record, and you're right. He was building up this anticipation right here, and also reflecting on the times. He was like, not even Lady Gaga can go out on tour right now, so that's why I'm calling it the last tour of the world. But I also, from chatting with him, feel like he was alluding to the fact that he will be taking a little bit of a break. You know, he has been really pounding pavement and has had such a breakthrough globally as this like crossover artist. I mean, the fact that this last record literally hit the top of the Billboard Hot 200. It's the first Spanish only
Yeah.
language album to do that. He knows he's put in the work, and he told me he's looking forward to a break. So I feel like we got to enjoy the new music he gave us this year. Again, 3 albums, because it might be a minute before we see him again.
And of course, we have to mention Taylor Swift and
Yeah.
Folklore. I think that definitely softened the blow for her fans who are looking forward to her Loverfest World Tour. But she had to cancel it, of course, due to COVID-19, along with a lot of other artists. But lucky for her fans who just always seem to just be in a good space. Taylor is just always gifting them with something. This
They always show
break
up.
allowed. Exactly, but this break allowed her time to create an entire new album. You know, if it wasn't for 2020, I'm not sure if we would have received Folklore. Plus, she released a Disney Plus film documenting the making of this project. So I feel like fans, her fans specifically, got a lot more than they probably expected from Taylor this year.
And can we also add that both Taylor Swift and Bad Bunny, they cannot fit in just one box anymore. I mean, they cross genre, and Domity, we saw a lot of that this year. What did you think of all the crossovers, you know, as far as like the genre bending goes?
Oh, we saw a lot of albums that, like, I don't even know pretty soon if genre is going to be a thing. There's so many different versions of multiple art forms. And one artist that does that really well, guys may or may not have heard of him, pretty niche out of the UK, Tom Misch, who has an album called What Kind of Music? And What
Mm.
Kind of Music is literally about, like, what kind of music is this? You know, he partnered with Yusef Diaz, who is a drummer. And actually, Freddie Gibbs is on this album as well, talked about him earlier. But the project goes from jazz to hip hop to neo soul to R&B and back to jazz again. And it's sort of this journey, this experimental journey. And you see multiple artists do that. You've seen that a lot of world artists like Bad Bunny, who we just talked about, and Wizkid, who dropped multiple albums in 2020. He just dropped
Mm-hmm.
Made in Lagos this year as well. Afrobeats has become a part of the world music lexicon with rappers featuring on Afrobeats records, so many different collaborations. Pretty soon, I think it's going to be harder and harder for us to know what genre different artists are in.
Yeah.
Also, I feel like this year everyone collaborated with Doja Cat. Doja Cat got on
They
a
did.
track with Ariana Grande, with The Weeknd, BB Rexa, Chloe and Halle. Something tells me that not only did she have a breakthrough year, this is going to be someone everyone's going to be clamoring to collab with. Kind of like when, I feel like Megan Thee Stallion too.
Mhm.
Yeah, when she popped off last year, a lot of people were like, oh, we got to get Meg on a track and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
a lot of crossovers
Jenny, you
there.
were talking about missing live performances. Doja Cat made it much easier to go with that live because she has been killing these quarantine
She
performances.
hasn't
Oh my
she?
God.
Every
And they're
single
also
one
different. We only have a couple minutes left, but I'm gonna put you both on the spot. I need to know, what is the album or the artist that saved 2020 for you? Domati, we'll start with you.
That album for me was My Turn by Lil Baby.
Yes.
That album should have been nominated for Rap Album of the Year. There was not a rapper alive who didn't want a Lil Baby feature because every song he jumped on made its way to the Billboard charts. And he has a good mix of club records to songs like Emotionally Scarred and Something to Prove that
Bigger
really
Picture, that was a political statement.
I got power now, I gotta say something.
Yes! And this year, he also tied with Prince and Paul McCartney with 47 entries on the Billboard Hot 100 and 12 tracks off of My Turn charted. Yes. So, I mean, this dude was breaking records. Yes, and I just love that album, man. It turned me up and it allows me to get introspective at the exact same time. It was a perfect project.
Denny, my pick, if I had to choose, I was here for the comebacks this year. So I'm going to go with my girl, Jasmine Sullivan. Oh. Goodness, yeah, look, this soulful, just angel, her voice is just angelic. She dropped a single in August titled Lost Ones, and recently she dropped Pick Up Your Feelings, which is my jam. She's going to release her new album, Hotels, in January, I believe January 8th of 2021. So this is her first album in 6 years, which is something I'm definitely looking forward to next year. And she just makes good music.
Well, you guys both know I'm the pop guy, and I feel like the artist that really tried to come and save pop music in 2020 was Dua Lipa, because she really brought disco back with Future Nostalgia, but also she was one of the first artists to decide to drop their new record during the pandemic. I feel like it was at the very beginning of quarantine. And so I know she has gone on the record to say that she pushed back the release. They debated whether they should drop it at all, but she went for it. And I just feel like it came at the right time, a time where, as you explained, Domati, we kind of needed that escapism. And there was nothing more nostalgic or futuristic than Future Nostalgia. And I mean, it really got me dancing, and I just appreciated it because it was kind of, again, there were so many things to look forward to, and one of them was, her follow-up to her debut, and she delivered. So for me, I feel like it'll be Dua, but also I just want to quickly give an honorable mention to a future superstar, Rina Sawayama. I don't know if you guys listened to her debut record. It was Elton John's favorite record of 2020, so that's saying something. I had to just give her a quick shout out because I thought her record this year was also amazing. So
go Rina.
Go Rina.
Go Rina.
Now I'm a music head, Denny. I gotta go listen to that now. I'm kind of mad.
Yeah, exactly.
The artist I haven't heard that. Now I gotta go do my research.
I just wanted to prove to you that I got some taste outside of top 42. Okay. I was like, respect to Dua, but look out for Rina Sawayama for sure. Anyways, this was way too much fun. Dova, Team Alicia, thank you guys so much for joining me. Here's to a new year, okay, full of new music, hopefully some live shows, hopefully some concerts. But Alicia, before I let you go, you both mentioned actually earlier Versus and Brandy's return. She came back, and it wasn't just the new album that we got, huh, Mel?
That's right, Denny. As Domati mentioned earlier, 2020 was the year of versus battles. And that meant a trip back in time to Brandy, Monica, and The Boy Is Mine, which was another one of my jams. We have that story up for you next.